Yes.
And I had to get a color-coded bracelet.
Yes, like the one I'm wearing.
Yes, and you know who else does that? It's a Mexican cartel.
Okay.
So, thank you for your time, and let's go, Brandon.
Hello, happy Tuesday evening, I think it is at this point. I hope that you guys can hear me. I am using this fancy new mic here, and please let me know, give me a thumbs up or something if you guys can hear me. I just want to make sure that that is up and going. I wanted to hop on really quick, and again, I still can't seem to see the comments. So I will go back and listen or go back and look at the comments if there are any afterwards. Just try to respond and engage. Okay, good. I'm glad that you can hear me. All right, thank you for that. So yeah, so this is a still new territory for me, guys. I am, just to be clear again, the purpose of Secure the Border and all the work that I personally have been doing, and so many amazing people who have helped volunteer all last year, and now into this new year. Secure the Border is created as a grassroots organization here within the state of Texas to try and do all that we can on the city, state, and local level. Well, on the city, county, and local and state level to try and secure our borders, our sovereign state borders. So I am not media, okay? I know sometimes when I do go on my little adventures, I go live, and that's solely just so that you guys can kind of see some of the things that I see along the way. But I am not a media person, so all of this is new to me. But thank you guys so much for logging in. What I wanted to do, and again, please just give me grace and patience. I am not a tech savvy person. I am just a homeschooling mom. So thank you for your patience and your understanding. But the reason why I wanted to come on live today was because I had recently sent a message to one of the people that I have been in contact with CIS, asking specifically about what happens to these special interest aliens or those that are on the known terrorist watch list. Um, and what happens from there? I know theoretically what should happen, right? We would all hope that they would be, well, number one, we would hope that our borders would be secure. So this way, the amount of individuals coming over would be as least as possible. But that's just not the case, as we well know. But what happens in those situations where these special interest aliens are encountered, and what is the process from there? That was really what I was interested in, specifically because, of course, the last live that I did was in reference to the more recent uh, terrorist attack here in Colleyville. I do have that live up. You can find it on YouTube or on my website at the website securetheboarder.us. And talking about on how and linking that together, the very real terrorist threat, the sleeper cells that are already here within particularly my area, North Texas, and don't get me wrong, they're everywhere, but particularly here. Oh, I can see comments. All right. All right. I think that might be coming from YouTube though. All right. So anyway, sorry, I got excited there for a second. So yeah. So so talking about, like, I wanted to find out more about that, right? Because specifically in the Del Rio sector area, there has been, which I've spent more recently a lot of time in, there have been an increased amount of special interest aliens coming over in that area. So just wanted to try and get a good understanding of what's going on with that. And again, tying it to the very real terrorist threat that we're all facing, but particularly here more recently in my area. So I did pull some of these things up because I wanted to talk about that. And, Todd Bensman, who is a senior fellow from CIS, he was the one that I reached out to specifically, if you guys know anything about his background, he has worked for DPS here, actually for like the Homeland Security. I'm not getting that terminology right, but specifically for the anti-terrorism units here in the state of Texas. So, that was the first person that I reached out to, and of course, a few others that are still currently in their respective uniforms, who are, in these areas that are seeing these special interest aliens come over. I reached out and said, "Hey, what's going on? What happens to these people? Especially those that are on the terrorist watch list." And then I was sent that article that Todd had that he had written, and I was like, I knew it. Like, I literally text back, and I'm like, I knew it. So I wanted to kind of go over that with you guys and highlight it. I did want to wait. I did share. I do encourage you guys to go back earlier today. Freedom Works on Facebook had shared the live testimony of some of our congressional representatives, listening to some of the testimony. Todd was one of them. Brandon Judd was another one. There was a few different people that were testifying to what is currently going on, and they did briefly touch upon this. But of course, I wanted to kind of elaborate on that, and just kind of tie it into what we can do here in the state of Texas to try to address this. So, again, give me patience as I am learning how to do all of this. I'm going to try to share my screen with some of these articles that I was hoping to talk to you guys about. All right. So, specifically, back in March of 2001, Todd Bensman did write an article acknowledging that, Mayorkas did acknowledge the very real threat, that there were um, known terror, like people coming over, special interest aliens with known terrorist threats or from known terrorist countries coming over the border. This is not new. This is something that it's always been a very real threat. Again, here we are that post 9/11. Again, I remember very clearly where I was and what I was doing and how that greatly impacted the state of Texas, specifically our area and all of the United States, and how life drastically changed. So, somehow we've forgotten that under the Biden regime. I don't know. I can't understand it outside of just plain treason, and that's why I entitled this broadcast as treason, because at this point we have to start calling it for what it is. It is absolutely treason. So here, they go over. He goes into explaining how Mayorkas acknowledged that, how Democrats on the left came out and said that they were either lying or wrong, that this accusation, which again, this is not anything new. This is always, Todd Bensman, this right here. I encourage you guys to purchase this book if you guys have not already done so. Of course, I'm that nerd that purchased it immediately and got it for Christmas. Todd Bensman's book, The America's Covert Border War, and he goes specifically into that in the very real terrorist threat. So, and that's why I turned, I try to keep an eye out for anything that he puts out, because it's usually specifically related to this. And then on how the left just uses this and saying, like, it's just, there's no evidence for this. The government has shown no evidence that terrorists use the southwest border to get into the United States. I just gotta, you just gotta laugh at some, it's either like you laugh or you cry at this point. And how this, more recently now, just this last year alone, let me see if I can pull up the next article. Okay, like I said, bear with me here, guys. And I apologize. One of these days, I will get a secondary screen and be able to kind of share this a little bit easier. Okay. So this is the article that Todd had just put out just on the 31st. Yeah, just yesterday. I'm losing track of my days here, guys. And the reason why, and he had sent this out, and he texted this to me, and just because I had just asked him this question, and the reason why I asked him this question was because back in January, January 11th was when Breitbart released this article. Again, the Del Rio sector and other sectors, the RGV, have been receiving just an influx. They had received 40 migrants. I talked about this from special interest countries. I talked about this in the last podcast. So, this is really when it kind of started piquing my interest because it was coming over. It seemed to be coming over a lot in the Del Rio sector. And I always try to ask the question of like, why? What is it that's, the same thing with like the unaccompanied minors coming over in this area. Why? Why now? Why specifically? I just, as a homeschooling mom, I'm constantly reading, and I encourage my children to do the same, even when I taught, like, ask relevant questions, and why is usually a good start. So the Del Rio sector had seen an increase. Kinney County had seen, which is part of the Del Rio sector, had seen large numbers coming through their area. So then it led me to this, which is finally when I just reached out and started asking these questions. January 27th in Eagle Pass, they had received another, more Russians coming over. It was another Russian individual and another person from Syria. So again, asking the question, okay, well then what happens to them? What is supposed to happen and what actually happens? Because as we know, that is two totally different things right now. So when I asked what happens, the response that I got was that theoretically they're supposed to be apprehended. HSI and ICE does take them, and they're supposed to be interrogated and searched for ties just to any terrorist groups. Um, and of course, that in of itself um, leads to other questions. We know that the people that are coming over, they're dropping their identifications. A lot of these people are not wanting to be apprehended. The ones that are, there's nothing stopping them from even creating fraudulent IDs or using fraudulent IDs. So even if they are, and this right here, this was the Guardian, um, who wrote a whole article specifically about that, how fake passports are allowing ISIS members to enter into Europe and into the US. And it goes into, and I will try to go back, just like I did the last time, I will go back and try to put all of these links into on Facebook, anyways. I'll put all these links to these articles in the comments so you guys can reference to them. And I'll also try to, a few of these I'll also put on the website as well, securetheborder.us, so you guys can reference to them. But like, it's a known thing. This isn't new. None of this is new. Fraudulent, IDs and passports. The last time that I was down, well, the time before the last, the agents were telling me, the guard agents were telling me on how, they themselves have seen fraudulent, it doesn't take anything. They see just a whole bunch of fraudulent IDs. I personally have several different copies of different IDs for using the same um, the photo from several different countries, and they clearly don't look right. So again, like, this is not new, but it's coming over, and it's just a huge influx. So this right here is very relevant because even if they are apprehending them and questioning them, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have the correct information to even do a thorough background check. And if you understand the logistics of this, you've got someone from Russia. We don't even have a streamlined process here in the state of Texas from county to county or police department to police department. Every single police department, every single sheriff's county or sheriff's department across county lines in the state of Texas uses different databases to track their information. So if we can't even have that streamlined here in the state of Texas, how are we going to be able to assume that that's going to be something that's easily done from state to state or from country to country? So you can see how this becomes so many ways that this could just fall through the cracks. Regardless, so again, what I'm saying, I have the receipts for it. This is not anything new. This is information that's out there. It's well documented. So then we see on how, again, the Syrian and the Russian that came over, Russian specifically, I know that Oscar Blue, and I know there was a few other journalists that have been speaking about the different, the influx of Russian migrants, particularly in Mexico, that are being caught or being found within waiting to receive their documents to come on over, that they are stopping there, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're stopping them. They're able to find them and see that they are from Russia, but that there's nothing stopping them from coming to the United States right now as we're headed towards, God forbid, World War III under this regime. It's definitely concerning. So all of this, when I reached out to him, I said, well, so what happens? I it's reasonable to assume that, or to question, considering the fact that back in June of last year, of 2021, one of the lawsuits that the state of Texas filed was, and I will pull this up. Hold on one second. Find it. One of the lawsuits that was filed um, was against current ICE agents and sheriffs. Kinney County was one of them. There were several different sheriff's departments that teamed up together and filed a lawsuit with affidavits with current HSI and ICE agents saying, we are literally doing catch and release. At this time, I remember that Ortiz had just pretty much been installed a few months prior, and he was in Del Rio at the time, and was going on saying that catch and release is not happening. And I remember, thinking to myself, this was around the time of the Trump Hannity town hall that was happening down there in South Texas in the RGV area. And I was over there, and a few of friends were down there with us. And I remember thinking to myself at that time, like, I knew that this lawsuit was about to come out. And I was just like, oh my goodness, what a joke this is. Because they were literally having ICE agents that were brave enough to come forward and write affidavits saying, no, we are exactly doing that. Like, taking these criminals. These are, let me go over here, and I will also have the link. I have the link to the where is it? To the actual lawsuit itself. Right here, I will try to input that as well. You can go through here. These people that they were catching and releasing were violent criminals. Many of them, if I scroll down here, as like I say, I try to always say, like, don't take my word for it, just read it for yourself. Many of these cases were sexual offenders of children. They were convicted. So this isn't an allegation. These are convicted sexual offenders of children in particular that are then being captured and then released, hence the name catch and release. And it doesn't necessarily just apply to, to criminals, criminal offenders. They're doing this across the board. So again, I'm leading this up to, if it's reasonable then for me to ask these questions of going, well, what is actually happening? I mean, many extremely dangerous, illegal aliens. You just have to scroll down. Okay, right here, the cases. Um, Previously deported and were returned, had been previously convicted of sexual battery against a child. And the vast majority of these cases that were submitted from current HSIS agents saying, no, we are literally taking these criminals, these illegal alien criminals, and releasing them into the United States, into Texas and into the United States. So you could see why I feel like my case is justified in asking, if they're releasing these dangerous criminals into the United States, why then would they not? Why then would they stop there? Why wouldn't they continue on the path of releasing known terrorists on the FBI terrorist watch list into the interior parts of the United States? It's a reasonable question. So at least I feel that way. And then, sure enough, this was the report that that Todd Bensman wrote yesterday and released that ICE released a suspect, a terrorist suspect from Venezuela. He was a Lebanese-born Venezuelan, um, despite FBI recommendations. He was on the FBI terrorist watch list, and they released him into. He's now living very just freely. I believe it was in Baltimore. So then my question is, these right here in the state of Texas that have been recently apprehended, and there's a lot more than just these two. I just pulled up the two most recent articles um, from this year because we're now officially into February. It's been a very long month. Uh, what's happening to them? Well, where are they being sent to? And when I asked specifically, and I said, I thought my follow up question was, is there no way that the state of Texas, knowing that this is happening, could then somehow interfere, somehow at least apprehend these individuals and question them? Because I'm all about the action items. What can we do? Right. And we're going back to state sovereignty. We have to. That's the only solution that I can reasonably see, that this is what we've been fighting for all last year while down there in Austin saying we need to push these policies. We need to push this legislation like HB 121, which would change, trespassing charges from a misdemeanor to a felony. There's so many different things that could be done right here constitutionally and legally in the state of Texas on the city, county, and state levels. We have to try to find a solution because we know that we cannot depend on the federal government and to stop this. We can't. It's being purposely done. And so what can we do specifically, knowing that there are people, individuals, illegal aliens coming over through the border of Texas, through the southern border of Texas? What can we do to try to at least start building a database here within the state of Texas to where even if we cannot legally deport them, which I would argue that there are ways, one of the things that we advocated for during last session was for the governor and the lieutenant governor to call for a meeting with Border Patrol agents and current HSI agents um, and push for a blanket deputization of under the code under 8 U.S. 1325 and 1326, I believe, which legally gives the authority to on the federal level to HSI and ICE agents to be able to deport. Those are the two main codes that are used. Well, theoretically, if we are able to deputize and have a blanket deputization of certain, law enforcement individuals, then that could theoretically give us the constitutionally the authority to be able to deport. When Governor Abbott came out months ago and said that he was going to finish the wall, he said that he was going to start apprehending and arresting illegals that were coming over for trespassing. Well, number one, it's only considered a misdemeanor. And so they're not able to hold them for very long. Number two, it's just not feasible. I mean, as of right now, by their own numbers, which we know is extremely, the gotaways are just horrendous. We can't house 2 million illegals that are coming over into our state jails. We just can't. We can't. Okay. With more and more crossing every single day, every single hour. As we're speaking right now, there are illegals crossing over all over 1,250 square miles of the border of Texas. So this is never ending, and it's constantly going on. So there's just we can't do that. But so then part of the other issue is, well, how do we then try to deport if HSI and ICE is unable to do so because of the orders from the Biden regime and Mayorkas? then again, what can we do? What solutions? Well, this was one of the options. This was one of the things that we were pushing for. And before people say, "Oh, well, that's not necessarily something that we can do," well, I would challenge that, right? 287G, one of the things that I've been digging into right here in Tarrant County, my Sheriff Wayborn and Tim O'Hare fought to implement 287G and 287G program into Tarrant County. We were one of the few counties that actually have implemented that. And it's up to the counties to figure out how aggressive that they want to be with that. And I guess I'll go back into that here in a little bit in a little while, in a little bit, because that's one of the things that I've been actively working on. I just got the stats back a few days ago of how many people have been apprehended and fall under this 287G guidelines um, or program here in Tarrant County. And I have some concerns with that as well. And I'm actually waiting right now to hear back from my sheriff's department to see about having a meeting with him. Hopefully, we can get that scheduled, and I can get those answers that I have questions that I have answered, and then try to see how we can fortify that, not just here in Tarrant County, but also to spread that awareness and implement that in hopefully other counties along in Texas. Because again, it's about what can we do. But the 287G program, if you look at it at its face, is exactly that. Individuals within the county are then able to they take courses from what I understand and from everything that I've read that they take courses use given by HSI and ICE agents. It's about a week long course, and then again, it's up to the county with how aggressive they want to be with it. But it's still like under. It makes the 287G program that is implemented would set almost the precedence that it would just be like another notch or two that of a wide deputization, that potential, okay, legally and constitutionally. This was one of the things that I worked on with a current friend of mine who is currently running for office, so I'm not going to say any names, but he was one of the ones that actually helped put that onto paper, turn that into an action item months ago. That was one of the things that we were advocating for in Austin. So again, I say all of that because we have to find solutions. We have to look at, we know that the federal government, we cannot depend on it. We have to go back to state sovereignty. What can we do? If we know that there are known terrorist threats coming over our southern border and we're apprehending people from Uzbekistan, of which I've seen and actually turned in some IDs, from Uzbekistan that I had found and collected, from Russia, from Syria. Why can't we do that? And what I was told was, well, we can only question them if they violate state law. Okay. So we need to find out what law they are violating. Number one, of course, they're violating the law just by crossing over illegally. I would argue that, but I understand. I don't really understand, but I know that that is one of the arguments that that they use, that it's federal law. Okay, well then we need to try to push for something to be done policy wise, legislatively, to be able to change this. Again, if they change the policies from a misdemeanor to a felony, that's a game changer. It's a whole different ball game. But even then, you still have the logistics of, well, if it's on private property, then it is up to the landowner to actually try to prosecute this. Like there's so many different loopholes, and honestly, I'm tired of it, and I know that Texans are as well. We're suffering. People are being exploited. This is not. I don't know how I don't think that we are going to survive 3 more years of this, in my honest opinion. But anyways, all of that to say, we need to find solutions. So how can we? And that's part of the action items, guys. We need to brainstorm. If anyone, and I am going to be reaching out to other individuals as well to say, okay, well, how can we? What can we do here on the state of Texas to be able to start at least questioning these people before they are given into the hands or turned over to HSI and ICE? To at least be able to build a database that then that information would be given particularly to our metroplex areas, because again, if they are known terrorists or on the known terrorist watch list of the FBI, they're not going to be committing terrorist acts out in Roma, Texas. They're going to be coming here to DFW. They're going to be going to Houston. They're going to be going to Austin. So, is there a way to be able to start building this database of information right here in the state of Texas with what's coming over, if nothing else, that then could be shared with our local PDs throughout the state of Texas and Sheriff's Office? I feel like that's a valid question. So if anybody has any ideas of that, please let me know. Reach out to me, and I mean, let's get this going. And I will be obviously, like I said, reaching out. It just so happened that I had started beginning asking these questions specifically, and then this article was sent to me and was written. So again, we're all about action. What can we do? The other part of it too that I feel like at this point is just like, I mean, gosh darn it, are we the only ones are we the only ones that are playing by the rules here? I mean, I know that we are. I know that we are. But when you're releasing violent criminal aliens throughout our state, because we can't control what's going on in other states, well, we can try to do all that we can to fortify our Texas. And we need to come together and start asking these hard questions. Another thing that that a friend of mine mentioned, and I totally slipped. I did not. I try to keep abreast on things. Apparently, it was mentioned by a current candidate. Of course, going after the NGOs. There's so many different things that we could do. But it was mentioned by a current candidate, who's running for governor. That, well, why don't we go back to creating our own border patrol here in the state of Texas? What a novel idea. I mean, like things like this, like these are the things that we need to be asking, that we need to be pushing for. 287G. You can go visit securetheborder.us. You can find some information on there about 287G. As soon as I have that meeting with my sheriff, which will hopefully come sooner than later, I will hopefully be able to provide more information on that and how it can be fortified. Like, again, not just here in Tarrant County, but and used throughout our great state. Those are one of the action items that we can do, that you can push for on your county levels, within your state, or within your city as well. Like, these are the things that we need to be looking at. So I call it high treason because that's exactly what it is. There was another article just yesterday. Apparently I might have closed it. There was another article. Yeah, this is another one. 14 illegal immigrants on the terror watch list stopped at Border Patrol in 2021. I mean, it is treason, guys. I don't know what else to call it. There was another case, another article that was just released yesterday about a drunk driver, an illegal alien, who back in 2020 hit and killed a teenage girl. He was about to be deported, and Mayorkas, our own government, stopped him from being deported. Our taxpayer dollars are paying. Let me see if you guys were probably, I know that Todd has shared some of my photos of some of the things that I've collected. This right here are packets that were given using our taxpayer dollars by the UN and other NGOs. You guys can see it. I've got plane tickets, whole families worth of plane tickets. Who do you think pays for that? People are being exploited. Children, women, these illegals are being exploited and lied to. Can't tell you how many of these I have. IDs from little children here on the banks of the Texas side of the river. Our taxpayer dollars are being used to help fund this through the UN. There was an article, actually it was a video, I shared it a few days ago, that Todd was on the CIS podcast and went in to explain on how, while he was just recently there, the UN is now using and has been using our money to bring in psychologists, psychiatrists, to bring back repressed memories for the illegal aliens who may have otherwise been turned down from asylum claims because they do not qualify. The UN has been using our taxpayer dollars to pay for psychologists, essentially to help coach them on how to fall into the asylum loopholes. That's what our taxpayer dollars are going for. Our children and our families are being killed by the fentanyl overdoses and the methamphetamines that are pouring over the border. I just shared yesterday from the city of Dallas, the police department in the city of Dallas, that they just came across, just rescued a few girls who are more than likely illegals, given if you listen to the whole interview, they were talking about on how they've seen many from Mexico, Honduras, Haiti. Again, not my words, it's theirs. You can go back on my Facebook feed and see that. Here in the city of Dallas, which is number one right now currently for sex trafficking. Every town is a border town. We're going to continue seeing more and more drug overdoses. We're going to continue to see gangs, gang violence, illegal guns that are pouring over. They want to take my guns away and all your guns away, but they're fine with the illegal guns that are coming over. And now they're single-handedly also, helping to spread potential terrorists throughout Texas and throughout the United States. If that's not treason, I don't know what is. So again, for me, what can we do? What can we do here in the state of Texas? And that is the point of Secure the Border. So I encourage you, please, to get active, engaged, and involved. Reach out to me. One of the other things that I'm hoping to help launch, I've already reached out to a few different people that I think would be really good for this, is an idea that is not my own. It is another organization in another state that has been doing this effectively, tracking the crimes committed by illegal aliens, specific types of crimes, and they have been successful in impacting. And I reached out to them. We had an amazing conversation, and I really want to get that up and going. As a separate entity, not part of Secure the Border, guys. I cannot do this. But if you guys are looking for something that would actually make a difference, please reach out to me and I'm hoping to gather a group of people. Like I said, I've reached out already to a few. I'm doing the best that I can. That this needs to be completely separate. And hopefully these two separate entities, Secure the Border and this other entity that is sorely needed here in the state of Texas, we can work together and do exactly what they've been able to do in other states and actually impact their state legislation in their respective state. Like, sent me over the legislation that they've had a hand in passing. So these are things that you don't have to be crazy like I am going and traveling all over the great nation of Texas. Okay. You don't have to be out there on the banks, the river. There are so many things that you can do to fight back, and I need help to be able to do it. So please reach out to me if you might be interested. You can do this anonymously. You can do this from the comfort of your own home, and you can help fight back and actually make a difference. I need help, and this would be huge. So I know, like I said, I've reached out to a few people about it, and I'm really hoping that God will bring people together to be able to do this actively from, to get this up and going, this other element, this other part to it. So that's definitely another action item. The other action item is if you have any knowledge of, any type of, we need to try to figure this out. I really, and I'm just a mom. I'm nobody. I'm nobody special. I'm nobody but the daughter of the highest king. Okay. But we need to start asking these kind of questions of like, what can we do here? And I, in my head, it makes sense, but well, like, how can we do that? So again, I'm going to be reaching out to, other law enforcement or previous law enforcement in their respective areas and asking these very same questions, and hopefully we can get some answers, and then hopefully we can try to see if we can get that implemented. We have to be able to do what we can do and what we can control. And there's absolutely no reason why, if they are coming over the border of Texas, why we cannot stop them, question them, if nothing else, and start building a database that can be shared within the Metroplex areas here in the state of Texas to at least keep a lookout for them. It seems reasonable to me. So, also another thing, guys, I really been wanting to head back down there to La Jolla. I am not one to ask for money, but I've had so many people like, no, you need to. I really need to be able to get back down there to La Jolla and to Roma and to hopefully help bring resources down there, just like I did in some of the other counties. For that police department and to go look specifically at what's coming over. I was sent some videos of what was currently coming over. It does look different, particularly with the unaccompanied minors. So I did set up, there is the Give Send Go account that is set up. I'll try to link that in the comments. And if anybody feels led to maybe donate $5 or $10 to the La Jolla trip, please do so. Thank you very much in advance. And it'll be going strictly towards gas and hotel costs for that. Because when I travel around to other areas of Texas, I usually have places to stay. This particular area, just because of what we would probably be doing, not probably what we would be doing. I don't want to interfere with other people's lives, and there's not as many options down there of places for me to stay. And so I've been able to do what I've been able to do all last year and everything because just so many amazing people have reached out and have opened their doors, to their guest homes and things like that. And it's just been so helpful because I've spent a lot of money doing this. So, a lot. Over 40,000. I think I hear my husband laughing because he knows exactly what my husband works 2 jobs and goes to school. I'm a homeschooling mom. So I'm definitely we don't have that kind of extra money to spare, but I'm doing it because number 1 of my children and number 2 for Texas and because it's the right thing to do. We need to try to actually we see all the time you have so many amazing people that are covering the border. They are reporters. They're putting their lives on the line. Anthony, Oscar, so many, Ben, Berkwam, so many different people that are doing this. But then what can we do? How can we fight back? How can we on the grassroots level, why there wasn't already an organization like this in the state of Texas? Because we were all lied to and told, and convinced that this was a federal problem or that it was, it's a federal issue. But like we said so many times, that's no longer an acceptable answer. It shouldn't have been an acceptable answer 30 years ago, and it most certainly is not an acceptable answer now. We need to get back to state sovereignty. So that's what I'm on the search of doing, and that's what I have done this entire time, is trying to get people active, engaged, involved, so that you guys can know the truth of what's really going on, but then take action items. Like, take action. This is how you fight back on the city, county, and state level. So please, if you feel so led, help to contribute to the Send Sheena Back to La Jolla fund, and I'll put the Give Send Go link, or I'll try to in the comments later, along with all the articles. So I really appreciate you guys. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I don't even know how long I've been going. Oh goodness, this is longer than usual. But again, I wanted to show you guys the information. Again, don't take my word for it. This is all documented. This is all, you guys saw it. I will put those links of some of these articles in the comments on Facebook so you guys can reference to them. And again, try to put those links in there in the website. Visit securetheborder.us. On there, I do post the lives. I try very hard to update. I did create a whole new section there of crimes against unaccompanied minors and what has been happening to these unaccompanied minors. That's where my heart is. The sex trafficking is very real. Crimes against these unaccompanied minors, they're being used as pawns, and it needs to stop. Like, this should be this is a nonpartisan thing. Yet here we are. So we need to continue to fight back in truth and in love and with the facts on our side, and be in search of the things that we can do, things that we can control. And we need to try to fortify our Texas as best as we can, because these things, terrorists coming over, children being exploited, people dying from drug overdoses, these are all preventable. And we should be doing all that we can here in the state of Texas, in our own respective cities and counties, and in our great state, to try to fortify this while simultaneously continuing to put the pressure, which I don't think we're going to get anywhere with, which is why we need to focus on the state of Texas. So one last thing I want to show you. This is one of the, I am one of those weird people that have been collecting items along the border, and I bring these things home so that if given the opportunity to speak here locally, I try to make it real, especially to the fellow moms, because if enough moms get pissed off, that's when I hope that we can put the pressure on. Us mama bears can be pretty scary, but we need to fight. If you guys can see, this was one of the little booties that I had brought back. It was covered in mud, all dried up now. Little girl. We need to fight for her. We need to fight for our children. So please help get involved. Securetheborder.us. Thank you guys very much for all the support. And let's keep on doing all that we can to secure our border and save Texas. God bless. Good night, guys.